Welcome back to Fear and Beer, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. Join us as we venture year-round into the fog.
Make sure you give us a like and a follow on your podcast platform of choice. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube page where we upload every episode in its video format, and maybe a few other surprises as well.
Make sure you're following us on social media to keep up to date with our newest haunted content.
I'm Nick.
I'm Seamus.
I'm Jamie.
Part 2. This is a beefy one. This is going to be interesting. We got to see what happens here because this is the confusing part of did people have these high and now they're in the middle? Did they have them low and they crept up? This is the middle is the battleground of the whole, episode itself. We did last week, we started it. So we're doing the second half now. And if you're jumping in on part 2, let me catch you up a little bit. We're doing a 50 house ranking, and we're taking the last 5 events. So that's HHN 30 through 34. We're smashing all of the houses together, and we're giving you one list. I put my own rankings in, Seamus put his rankings, and Jamie put her rankings in. I averaged it all together, and the list that we are left with is where they are, where the numbers are. So we're ranking everything 1 through 50. It's tough. This was a tough one. The middle part, like I said on the first episode, this was the hard part for me because it's I think all of these for both of us, or not both, all of us, I feel like you could have said this could be higher or this could be lower for all of these houses because that middle ground is so muddled, I'd say. So I'm excited to dive into this and see what happens. We left off on 35 last week. So this episode, we are going to cover everything from 34 all the way to number 17, it looks like. So we're getting that middle part out. And then next week, we will finish this list off and we will give you our top 16. And then we will round out everything and I will hit you with a whole bunch of data. I'm going to do some weird number crunching and see where we landed on certain years, where we landed on IPs and originals. That's going to be a fun one to kind of hit on that stuff. But I said this last week. Every time we plan episodes ahead of time, especially larger part episodes, something happens. We planned for nothing, yet somehow it came because that's just how it works. So if you're happy about whatever is being announced and talked about, you're welcome because it was on our part because we just had to plan episodes ahead of time. And we don't want to course correct. We want to hit part 1, part 2, part 3 and get it all out there. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff, the infamous letter, the MegaCon, and the logo reveal. That all dropped since last week's episode, and it's we'll get into it. But let's get some beers going first. I need some drinks. This was a good day. I just grabbed 2 Bud Lights. I don't have anything special in the fridge right now.
Classic.
I just need something simple. I need to empty the fridge out a little bit before I got some new stuff. So we're getting to this. And I got Bud Light. Jamie, I think you got a nooner.
I do have a high noon. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my mic.
Oh, it's okay. And Seamus, I think you're sipping on something.
Oh, I'm killing Wolverines, man.
We got the
Wolverine.
2 lights over here.
Wolverine? No.
Wolverines?
Wolverine.
Deadpool?
More like
okay.
Wolverine.
All right. Let's try to organize my thoughts a little bit. So I think first, what came out since the last episode was the announcement that Halloween Horror Nights was going to have a panel at MegaCon.
Ooh.
That will be on Saturday at 10:30, this coming Saturday. It's in one of the big halls. I forget the hall off the top of my head.
I think it's the Chapin Theater.
Chapin Theater? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be with, I believe, Mike Aiello, Laura Sauls, and Charles Gray. They're going to be going into what it takes to create a event this big and doing so for 35 years. They also didn't just announce that was happening. They dropped the Halloween Horror Nights 35 logo, which obviously people have been talking about. You saw our posts about it, so we don't have to go into super big detail, but it is giving off those Carnival of Carnage vibes with the numbers. It has a very prominent circus vibe, and it also has very distinct coloring of reds and yellows, obviously hinting at Jack the Clown and Dr. Oddfellow to some extent. Now, I don't know what will be announced at this panel, but it does seem like something big, because that brings us to today. Today, we got this little letter. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see right there is from Universal itself, Halloween Horror Nights. And in that was a little ticketed envelope. When you take that ticket out, it has the details and the date of March 21st, 2026. So that is Saturday's date, obviously the same day as the panel. And it also, pretty cool, it just got little Easter eggs. The number on the bottom is 082826, which is August 28th, 2026, which is the opening date. On the back of the ticket, it has the Universal Orlando Halloween Horror Nights logo, and it says 35 years of fear, screams, and nightmares will be unleashed at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando Resort this fall. Stay tuned to @Horror Nights Orlando as a legacy of nightmares begins to unveil on March 21st, 2026. Now, throughout this, everything is in capital letters except 4 letters, ICON. Obviously hinting at icon, which is, God, the ever so disputed topic in the Horror Nights community of what is an icon, what is not an icon. Not a discussion that we will be having tonight, but they are clearly hinting at something. I think it'll be fun. So let's go around the horn a little bit. Jamie, what do you think, if any, will they announce? Will it be an icon, a theme, a house, tickets? What do you think, other than, the behind the scenes stuff of Horror Nights, what will be announced that is talking about HHN35 specifically?
So, I mean, just with the ticket that we got in the theming and everything, it just feels like to me that maybe it's too early for a full-on announcement, but I feel like I could see them doing sort of the icon reveal and maybe like the tagline for this year.
Okay. Seamus, what do you think?
Oh, we're getting an icon announcement.
Yeah.
I think that's just too on the nose. Why would you put that on there, get everybody hyped up, and then not do that? They're gonna drop. Not that we're getting a new icon, but I think they're gonna probably parade Jack out there or Oddfellow. We're gonna get the big Jack. We're gonna get the big Jack and Oddfellow showdown. I think, which is gonna kind of, I think, maybe let a house slip, but I don't know. I don't think we're not gonna get like any legitimate house announcements, but I think we're gonna get like the Jack is back type thing.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth. I do think it's a little early for a full-on house announcement. I could be wrong. Maybe they surprise us, but I am fully anticipating, the logo coming up. I'm thinking maybe they drop single day tickets, because this is kind of,
You think so?
creeping up, because they always do single day
Yeah.
before
That's
the
true,
frequent
yeah.
fear stuff. So maybe single day tickets. I do think that Jack the Clown will be in attendance, live and in person.
Man,
I don't
hope
know
so.
about Hello. I am curious about that, because with Jack the Clown, obviously in the zones and houses that he's been in the past, multiple people take on the role of Jack the Clown. But for all like the commercials, they've had primarily just the one actor, I think James Keaton taking the role of it. So it would be interesting. I think they should have him there, but Dr. Oddfellow, it could be like played by anybody really. So there's not like a go-to person for that. I think it would be funny if they did like a UFC face-off, like they go nose to nose.
That would
And
be
it's
kind
like
of funny.
like a weigh-in. So we'll see. I think they're going to obviously unveil maybe a tagline. Maybe this event does have a tagline, and Jack the Clown for sure. It is fun. I am very happy that, and maybe it's just because it's an anniversary, that they're sticking with Halloween Horror Nights 35 instead of saying Halloween Horror Nights 2026. Because that was something in the past, these last couple of years, where we've sort of just been having the year date on it and not so much the actual
The
event
number.
year. So I'm
Mhm.
very happy that that is back and that's part of the logo, because I feel like the last couple of years the number itself wasn't prevalent at all. It was just kind
Yeah.
of the year.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited for that. Jamie is actually going to be there at MegaCon on Saturday for us, covering all that.
Yay.
I, of course, have stupid work that I have to attend to.
I was able to get off
And
stupid work, so that was nice
yeah,
at
so
least.
that is disappointing. I've missed like every panel. I realized that. The last panel I went to was like 3 years ago because I missed the Slaughter
Yeah, me
Cinema
and
2
Seamus
panel.
went to the last one. Yep.
That's true.
I missed
we
the
did.
Artista panel, and I'm going to miss this one now.
It's okay.
So that's annoying
I
me.
know, that is upsetting. Hopefully I don't get lost.
Oh,
I'm
well.
going to go there
As long as
extra
we got
early.
coverage there, all is good. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe if something big gets announced, maybe we can do a YouTube live before next week's episode at some point to kind of get instant reactions out there and give our thoughts on it. But that'll be kind of decided once we get to there to see what comes out of that panel itself. So
Yeah.
again, you're all welcome, because we tried to be diligent and plan episodes for you all. That is when the announcements start coming. So I guess we just have to start pre-planning episodes a little bit more often, because it gives the people what they want. So other than that, I think that's all of the housekeeping. I know there's been some other rumors and speculation and stuff coming out. We don't have time for that. Maybe in a couple weeks, we can do another little rumor roundup. We'll touch base on everything that has been discussed in the world of rumors and speculation, talk about if it's absolutely ridiculous and will never happen or not, because that's really my thoughts on some of the stuff that's getting talked about right now. But let's jump into this list. If you have lists and if you're keeping track at home, send them over and comment. I love all the back and forth. We're getting a lot of like, oh, this is my list. This is where I had this. I can't believe this was so low. Maybe for the last episode as well, when I'm talking all of the numbers and come up with these weird statistics, I can kind of pull up some of people's takes on our takes, little take on take action. So that'll be interesting as well. So with all that said, let's dive back into this list. So we're picking up at house number 34. And if you remember the end of last week's episode, this was actually tied with 35. However, somebody ranked this house higher than Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America. And number 34 is going to be The Horrors of Blumhouse, Black Phone and Freaky. So this got ranked higher by Jamie. Jamie had this at 21, which beats Monstros because we had that at 30, 30, and 31. So, Jamie, 21, you had this way up there. What hit so hard? I mean, I know Black Phone, but
And you know
you
what's
hate
so
Freaky,
funny?
so it's like, it's weird you split this.
Yeah, it's so funny. Can you guys hear me okay? I feel like my mic's lagging a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So I feel like when I ranked this, I thought I ranked it kind of like low. I was like 21. I really do like the Black Phone, so I guess looking at it now out of 50, it is kind of high up there. But yeah, don't like Freaky. Haven't seen Freaky, so I didn't really get that half of the house. Didn't have that connection to it. The Black Phone, on the other hand, absolutely love. Big fan of that film. And the second one, unpopular opinion, but that's okay. Yeah, but I think my love for that movie kind of outweighed my dislike of the Freaky side, and I feel like this would probably be the only time we get to see, or I get to see the Black Phone in a house. I really don't think they'll try to do the second one. I feel like they've kind of done the promos over the last 2 years for the photo booth that they had in the Blumhouse Scare Zone, and then the kind of like phone booth setup that they had for the second movie coming out this year. But I don't think we'll get a full-on Black Phone house, or maybe another iteration with the second half of the house. I feel like we're kind of straying away from those horrors of Blumhouse houses. Man, that was a lot of time saying houses, but yeah. So that's why I rank this at 21. A little high, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seamus, you weren't too far off. You had this at 27.
Yeah, I mean, I think this house is kind of right in the middle of all 50. That's why it's in the middle of my list. I think that it was fun. I enjoyed both of the sides. I think I think you're missing out a little bit on Freaky, Jamie. I think you at least got to give it a chance.
I gotta
'Cause
watch it
it's,
at
I
some
think,
point.
better than people realize. I think it's a pretty good movie. Yeah, you got to give
Is
it
that the one
just give it a shot.
with Vince Vaughn?
But either way, yes, it's Vince
Yeah,
Vaughn,
yeah.
and I forget the poor girl's name, but
Catherine Newton.
Catherine Newton. Yeah, I think it's Catherine Newton. But I really did enjoy both sides of that house. Probably Black Phone a little bit more. Well, I don't know. It's actually, now that I think about it, it's kind of hard for me to make a decision as to which one I like better than the other. But because I think they both had their moments. I think Freaky was fun for what it was, which is more of a upbeat, like dance slasher. If that makes any sense, it's very like kind of. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it was pretty fun. And then you switched to Black Phone, which was obviously a little bit darker, a little bit, you know, more grounded, I think, than Freaky. But overall, I think good representation from each movie. I think maybe Black Phone does feel a little, or did feel a little samey, because you had a lot of the, you know, same beats in that basement area. But overall, I mean, each scene felt like it was ripped right from the movies. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, not the best house, but not definitely far from the worst house. That's for sure.
I lowered this ranking a lot for us.
Yeah, you did.
What did you put this
I had
at?
this at 43.
43? Oh my God, that's
did.
dramatic.
A little bit. That was a little dramatic of me. For me, it really wasn't that memorable. It's hard for me to think back and like remember. And because of like what Seamus said too, I love the Black Phone. The scenes in that house were very repetitive. It was very basement, and it was smart doing it as a split house, because you couldn't fill a full house with Black Phone, the original. There's not enough scenes. So it was smart. I think I had more fun in Freaky because it was fun and different. I like Black Phone better as a movie than Freaky by far, but it's just a little trickier doing something like that, because it's in the basement, and it just got a little repetitive for me. So I had fun with that house, but I think I had fun with a lot more other houses, that's for sure, as far as these rankings go. So let's move on now to number 33. And this is where we are going to return to last year. This is where Gulkin, Monsters of the North, landed. And this is a funny one, too, because this is a similar one to Monstros. We all had this at pretty much the same spot. I had it at 30. Jamie and Seamus had it at 29. So we were all like...
Yeah, we were like dead on.
Exactly. And it is funny that we ranked it all like higher than where it landed, because everything else, like, you know, all the numbers, people had them higher and stuff like that. This one, even though we had it ranked pretty much at 30, it's still at 33 because it just dropped a little bit. So yeah, I mean, when it's not much of a conversation piece when we all just agree this is where it kind of is. So it was a very fun house. I think what hurt it for me was that fake promise. They didn't promise us anything, but that illusion that we thought this was going to be a little bit different than what we had gotten. We were kind of expecting that in the wintertime, cold style house, and it ended up not being like that. I remember us having, I don't want to say issues, but again, with the whole repetition thing, there was a lot clearly pulled from like Blood Moon. It seemed like Blood Moon Jr. So that was some of the things that I had against it, but I still had fun with it. I mean, the puppetry, I think Seamus mentioned the puppet in the last episode about that finale scene where
Insane.
Why couldn't we have something like that in A Quiet Place? Like, that was just amazing. That was so fun. The noises it made were just fucking ridiculous. And I had fun in this house. There was a great couple scares in there, but again, with how we all ranked it, apparently, you know, there's just that much more ahead of it that we really did enjoy. So who had other thoughts on Gulkin as to why it's kind of just a middle?
My thing was that Gulkin, for all of its high points, had a lot of low points, and that's kind of where I kind of stuck it when it's like kind of not quite in the bottom, but closer to the bottom than the top. I mean, at 29, 30, I mean, it's basically like, it's just, there's something about it that was missing. I think there were some really, really key points in it that were memorable, like obviously coming up to the Burning Man,
Yeah.
areas like that, the ending, monster that you kind of, that gets you at the very end. Like, those are the two big high points of that house, and then everything else to me kind of just bled together and didn't really scream super unique, only because, like you said, I feel like there was a lot of blood moon in it in a lot of ways. Obviously different, parts of the world, but it still felt very, early 18th century or late 17th century village type thing. And that's kind of where it lost me, was I feel like it was trying too hard to be Blood Moon or something along those lines, but there just wasn't enough outside of those two big, gotcha moments.
Yeah. I mean, they even not stole because it's their own properties, but they even reused the same exact audio triggers from Blood Moon. Some
They
of them.
killed
Oh,
Mama
that's
and
true.
Papa.
They did, yeah.
Which it's a fun callback, but I feel like for it to be a fun callback, maybe put it in a house that isn't so similar. Like put it in a completely
Yeah.
random house where it's like, okay, that was more of a fun callback versus having like the scenery also look like it. Because that scene was like that almost like tavern style house or whatever, and it felt like the same scene in Blood Moon as well. So I was like, all right, it's a little But Jamie, what were your thoughts on Galkin before we move along to number 32?
I mean, you guys kind of nailed it. It's funny that I think we all had this like right there in the middle. I think that's a good spot for it because as much as we all like this house, I feel like last year for the event, I feel like wasn't the number one house that like every night we were running to, but we always had a good time when we did run it. It did have a lot of high points. I think that puppet that is used at the end, that big kind of antler skeleton monster thing. I know there's a name, but I'm blanking on it right now, kind of thing. It's probably one
Similar
of
to a Wendigo.
Wendigo. Thank you, Nick. That's what I was trying to think of. I mean, I think that might be one of my favorite puppets that they've done that I've seen in a couple years. Like, what a cool like creature, and how they just like had its head above the entrance and then
Yeah.
it's like arm things kind of coming around it. Man, it was just really, really cool. And it's funny because I really didn't think it. I mean, it did have somewhat similarities, I guess, to Blood Moon to me, but I guess I didn't really think about them until you guys just brought it up now. I feel like the thing that differentiated it the most for me was just like the color palette. I feel like Blood Moon's had a lot of like those dark reds and blacks and browns. I feel like this was more like the earthy tones. So that kind of, it reminded me of like Goblin's Feast a little bit. I guess like that kind of setting too, not really
Yep.
same monsters and stuff like that, but I guess that woodsy, outdoorsy setting, which I liked. But again, I wasn't expecting, we did see it when I guess we got the cover art for it. We did expect it to be kind of that cold house with the picture photo that was on there and everything. I guess I wasn't really expecting it, but I think it would have probably upped this a little bit more for me if it did have that aspect, if it was a cold house with some of those snowy settings and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was,
Yeah.
we were all sort of very excited for that. Also, we kind of had that Viking-esque
Mhm.
in our mind as well, too. So that, for better or worse, hurt us or helped us. But
Mhm.
it's just interesting. That's kind of where our mindset was.
Yeah.
So let's move to number 32. Now, this one's a little bit more divisive. Me and Seamus had this similar positions. Jamie had this extremely higher than we did. And
We're at
this is
30 or
coming from
32. I'm sorry. 32.
We had 32.
Okay,
this is
perfect.
number
Perfect.
32.
I'm just
This is
looking at my
coming from
list.
HHN30, and this would be Beetlejuice.
Damn.
Jamie, you had this all the way up at
I
11.
had this at 11. I was just, that's why I was trying to look back to match up what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Damn. You guys got me with the old juice.
We had this at 11.
Man.
Seamus had it at 35.
Okay.
I had it at 40.
Oh my God, Nick, you're so. I'm not even going to say it again. I'm not even going to say it again. If this wasn't the
Wasn't a
year
good
that
house.
if this wasn't the year that they had COVID and they didn't have the restrictions that it did, you would have loved this house probably. And you know what? I gave it the benefit.
Possibly.
I gave it the benefit of the doubt because I love that movie.
I'm judging
And I'll
what I
take what
got
I
to
can get.
see, unfortunately. That's what I have to do. I can't play What If, because if I played What If, I would play What If with every house and change the worst stuff and be like, well, what if this one thing was there? What if this was?
I
I
thought it was a
can't go
fun
down that
house.
rabbit
Yeah.
hole. You know, I can't. So what worked specifically for you to have it so high?
I thought it was a fun house. Again, I mean, I told you guys from the get-go, I'm ranking these as what Jamie wants to rank them. So if they're a
Which is
little
fine. No, that's what it is.
ridiculous and crazy, that's okay. But I mean, if you guys listen, you guys know I love all the IPs, and I specifically ranked these in how I enjoy these films and or series that we're talking about for IPs, and the originals, of course, too. But I mean, we've been talking about having a Beetlejuice house for years. I'm shocked that we haven't had one before that we did this year. It's very unfortunate that it did happen during the COVID years, so we kind of got the plexiglass shower curtain things in some of the scenes, and some of the characters or scare actors had the masks on, which was a little unfortunate. Don't get me wrong, but it was just such like a fun house walking through it. It did feel like you recreated scenes from the film, especially the hallway with the little doors and walking through like that, and then you could see the coat hanger and stuff coming back. Just really, it reminded me of how do I explain it? I'm sorry, I lost my second there. Kind of like the old 3D houses, but not a 3D house. Just sort of a fun house. I mean, it didn't really have too much of a story to it. Where pretty much, I guess, I know majority of us are familiar with Beetlejuice, so you know the movie. But it did what it could do with what it had, and I appreciate it for that. And I still just think it's really cool that we had a Beetlejuice house. So
Yeah, I just it was like a very almost fun house style of a house, because it was very wacky colors. I think we also had that like the rolling tube on the platform you had to walk through and kind of get really disoriented. It was cool having the Beetlejuice like live actor up top at that entrance, kind of just free flowing on a hot mic. It just there was a lot of stuff. I remember the dancing scene, the Deo scene. I feel like that probably would have had a lot of people in there, but with COVID, they didn't. I just felt pretty empty on this house. It just didn't hit for me. I was excited for it. I like Beetlejuice. I thought it could be done very well as a house. Unfortunately, I think it dropped the ball, and I think fans of Beetlejuice were, I want to say disappointed, but clearly you weren't. So maybe
I mean,
that's not completely true.
it's not that I wasn't disappointed. Like I said, these might be some ridiculous takes, but I'm ranking these and how I enjoyed them. And I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite houses of all time, but in these last ranking of years, it's definitely an IP that I enjoy, and I still enjoy the house for what it was. But I can agree to when you say that it was lacking in some parts. I know that we could have definitely benefited from that. And I guess I'm just thinking hypotheticals maybe, but it is what it is. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, and Seamus, you had this just a little higher than me, not crazy. So do we share a lot of the same
I
sentiment?
think you and I share kind of the same. Yeah. For me, I really do feel like COVID hurt it. I feel like it would have been ranked maybe not super high on my list, but it would have been a lot higher if I think we got to see it in its full, effect. And I know that they did like the 1-day thing the year prior or whatever, and maybe it was slightly better. I never did it. I never got over that. I couldn't get over there to see it because it was only the 1 day.
Yeah.
So I do feel like maybe due to COVID and all the restrictions they had, we did suffer a little for that. Because I feel like you said, the day scene, I feel like that scene would have been a lot more like upbeat,
Lively.
fun, but lively. But there was nobody in the room, and it just felt empty. So the house definitely felt really, really empty. But I think for what they had, they did what they could, and it turned out to be a pretty good house for what it was, and just better than a lot of the houses that I had below it. It's just kind of even for its like limitations, it was still better than obviously like 10 or 15 other houses that I clearly didn't like as much.
Yeah. It is funny too, because I think I believe it was Scott messaged me. It was like, wow, you guys didn't have a single house from HHN30 on the board yet in that bottom half. We've just hit 2 of them now. So like I said to him, I was like, I think that year had a pretty high floor. I don't think the bad was terrible. I think it was just bad, like not bad, but it wasn't catastrophic like some of the other ones. So yeah, I thought it was a little disappointing because of how much I was sort of anticipating this house to be that in your face, funny, goofy, almost like obviously not as gory as Terrifier, but kind of in that same vibe where like you're going to Terrifier to see art. Like you're going to Beetlejuice to obviously see Beetlejuice in your face with all of his shenanigans that he's up to. So it's just yeah, it fell a little bit for me. Number 31. This is another one that we all sort of had in the same ballpark. And this one we are going to HHN 33. And this is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Huh.
All similar. I had this ranked the highest. I had it at 23. Seamus had it at 28, and Jamie had it at 34. So kind of a gap between me and Jamie, but Seamus sort of split the difference there. I feel, I had it at 23, but I feel like this is still an appropriate spot for it. This was a very fun house. This one, I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw the movie. I didn't love the movie. I really loved Ghostbusters Afterlife, that first kind of bring back of the Ghostbusters story. And Frozen Empire, the movie fell short for me. I forget the issues I had with it because I haven't watched it probably since it was at Horror Nights, but I remember a lot of the story being almost too convenient for me to just accept. They kind of somehow just pulled all the characters from the first movie back into New York now all of a sudden and just kind of skipped a lot of beats for me. But I had a lot of fun with this house. It really surprised me. I think I liked the house more than I actually liked the movie. You had all the Ghostbusters in there. You had the little mini marshmallow man kind of all over the place. There was some really good scares. I remember specifically one night I must have closed this house out or very close to it because there was nobody in front of me. And I got a little lost during one of the scenes. And this was already after me going through this house before. But it was the scene, I think, before oh God, what's the character's name? The big tall one with the horns.
Oh shit.
Garaka.
It's like on the tip of my tongue.
Garaka. There you go.
Garaka, that's what it is. It was the hallway where Garaka is outside, and like all I could see was like I couldn't see anything. There was just lights in my eyes, like I was kind of being blinded. And I'm walking through, and then the lights swoop up and disappear. And it was Garaka, the character, like peeking through in the hallway. I think probably just to see if anybody was coming. And I was, but because the lights and the eyes were so bright, it was just kind of like two bulbs of lights. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I went through, and I didn't touch or like push this character, but like I kind of went through like it was like with the tarps, like I thought it was like an entrance, like I had to like push my way through, and it was just like cloth, and I looked up and he looked down, and I was like, oh fuck, like oh you son of a bitch, like
You got me.
got me. I think that's outside of the firehouse, if I'm not mistaken, with the projection on it of like the snow covering it, which was it being frozen over. So that was really good run. And then I also got this sort of like makeshift triple scare when you go through the sewers and all of the other ghosts and monsters from the previous movies are there. And at the end, they had a couple different characters, but then again, there was nobody around me or with me. And they just kind of pinballed me like hard. And I was like, oh, that was hands down the best run I ever had. And that left a pretty lasting impression on me. So, Jamie, why did you have this at 34?
I don't think it was too low of a ranking for this house, and I think it's a decent spot for where we have it too. Not that I didn't like this house at all. Again, I think this was a fantastically done house. That big literal frozen room that you walk through, I thought was so well crafted, especially the record player that has like the frozen hands to like winding up the little sprig. That was really, really cool. Overall, I think this was just at the spot that it was for me because I don't really have that connection to Ghostbusters. It was fun when we did get to run this house. I wouldn't say, at least me, I didn't run this house many times throughout the season. I did a good amount, but not enough to make me want to keep coming back, I guess. I guess there was others that just stood out more to me that I'd done that year. But for what it was, I do think it was a really fun house, and I feel like fans of Ghostbusters and the franchise probably did enjoy this house. So, to each their own.
There was a lot of love for this house.
Yeah.
Seamus, we're similar, like rankings pretty much
again,
very closely this episode, but
I think it's the same with you. I mean, I feel like I like the house more than the movie. I've seen the movie a couple times. It's okay. I mean, it's fan service. It's basically all it is. But yeah, I think the house was good for what it was. Again, still kind of right in that middle for me. Like not super great, but also not awful. It was still it was still one of the more memorable houses of recent memory. So I did enjoy it. I like some of the cold aspects of it. I think was a little different. I liked um the car there. I forget what the hell you call
oh
Echo
yeah, the
One.
Ecto one. Yeah.
Ecto One. I think there were
That
parts
was
of it that
cool.
were pretty cool. So I'm a little surprised that we have it ranked higher than Jamie. I thought just it felt like this was a house that you would have maybe higher in your list. So I'm surprised it was as low as it
Mhm.
was. But does kind of fall like I think right where it should.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get on to number 30. Now, this is where I had to enlist the double tiebreaker rule because number 30 and number 29 were even. They're tied up. They had the same number. So I went to go see who ranked it higher, and both number 30 and 29 somebody had ranked separately, but we now, how do I word this? We had both of them ranked at the same number
Huh.
for how good it was. So then I had to go look and see who had one of these ranked lower, and that is how the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ended at number 30. So, Jamie, you had
Damn.
this ranked at 17.
I did. I know. I was like, damn.
So the house that's at number 29, I had ranked at 17.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's why I had to look at, okay, who had this ranked the lowest?
Mhm.
And the lowest ranking for this house is 39. And that would be Seamus. So Seamus, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, old Leatherface didn't do it for you
No,
back then.
no, it didn't. I think again, wasn't awful. Again, I mean, 39 isn't 50, so it's still
Yeah.
Lower end of the list, but not super low. I just it was not. For one, I've said this before. Texas Chainsaw is just not my slasher. Like it's okay, I like it, and I think I can see the appeal of it. I think the original it's okay. I think I have more fond memories of the remake than I do of the original movie, just because I was in high school when that movie came out. It was kind of like I was exploring different slashers and stuff like that, and then that kind of got me hooked on it, and I went back and rewatched the original, but I just didn't really do it for me. Plus, you know how I am with chainsaws, so
Yeah.
take a whole bunch of chainsaws and stick them in a building. I'd rather just grate my ears with a cheese grater or something.
Yeah. I had this at 28. It's funny because you had that 39, I had 28, Jamie had it at 17. So this was very varying between the three of us. I had it just a little worse than halfway. I thought it was a fun house. I think that because they did this whole like legacy of Leatherface, like it was just called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I wasn't sure if this was like original or not. But then we had scenes from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which I thought were very fun because we had the chop top scenes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And we had Leatherfaces in all different outfits. So I thought that was a fun choice. But again, Leatherface isn't really my slasher as well, much like Seamus said. The original is an all-time classic. I get it. It's not one of my favorites. I am very similar to Seamus, where that remake in probably 2003, I think, is the one that, at the time I was 13. So similar time frame where it was like, I had already watched horror in the sense of like the old slashers that aren't really scary. But at the time when that came out, I was like, oh my God, this true story. Like this guy cut people up with chainsaws. Like I wasn't fully there yet, like I mean, I'm still not fully there, but like I didn't necessarily, those movies that start with like based on true events. It's like, I took that pretty literal back then versus being like, oh no, like this is like kind of pieces of a less gruesome story. This is just like little snippets of some other killer being Ed Gein. But like, I was like, wow, this is insane. And I remember one time I was in middle school and we went over a girl's house with a group of us, and I brought over like a handful of movies. I was the movie kid. I always had all the DVDs. I still do. So I was bringing over movies for all of us to watch as like a group. And we had to get the parental approval. So I had to show her dad like all the movies that I brought. And he just like pulled out the chainsaw. I was like, absolutely not. I was like, oh, you guys don't watch these movies? Like,
Not a fan.
bitch. But yeah, that movie in 03 really is I think pretty pivotal in my horror watching. I know it's not a great movie, but I still very much enjoy it. But yeah, The House I thought was just fine. So Jamie, what were your thoughts? Because at 17, you had this pretty high.
17 is pretty good. We've seen Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw at events in the past, and I've always thought they were all around pretty good houses too. Similar to you, Nick, as a kid, I was also very like, oh my God, based on a true story, looks like it can never go to Texas because fucking Leatherface is going to come after me. Are you kidding me? And you know how I am. So this is definitely the way I thought as like a 10-year-old kid. And especially when well, not new now, but that version of Texas Chainsaw came out, I guess was one of the more recent ones I had watched just because I was so young at that time. So I definitely wasn't watching it in 2003. But later in the years, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this guy is insane. And then some odd years later, I had watched the original. So even back then, I think one of the first years, it was at Carnival of Carnage when I had went that year as like a 9 or 10-year-old. All I remember is I could see the kind of back entrance of the house, and it was all like the clotheslines with like the sheets hanging, and Leatherface would literally like chase you out of the house, like right towards the exit. Took 2.5 second look at that, and I said, yeah, definitely not doing that thing. Are you kidding me? So walked right on by, right on by. Upset now that I didn't do it because I was too big of a scaredy cat when I was younger. But all around, I feel like Texas Chainsaw has kind of been one of those movies that I saw when I was younger, scared me, even though there's so many different remakes and whatnot today. I feel like it still kind of holds up too. I feel like Leatherface is a pretty big name, and he's been prevalent at Horror Nights long enough, so he's done what he could do, and I feel like this was the spot that I had for him and for the Texas Chainsaw that year. And I like that they did kind of the compilation house, like you said, Nick. I feel like there was a lot of variety in it, and it was fun seeing the different costumes that Leatherface would wear. And I gotta say, I mean, we got more variety in this house with Leatherfaces than we did in the friggin' Jason universe, so.
That's a rights thing. That's a
Yeah,
whole different can of worms.
it's
We don't have to talk
alright.
about Jason again.
No,
He's not on this
I
episode.
know.
I get it. Everyone hates my boy, Mr. Voorhees.
Mr. Voorhees.
All right. So let's move to number 29 now. So this is part of that crazy tie. I had this house ranked at 17. Seamus had this at 36. So that was the lowest for this house. And that's why Chainsaw fell, because it was 39 by Seamus is doing as well. And this is where we get another Universal Monsters house. This is where Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives landed from the COVID year as well. I saved it. I had this one at 17. Jamie had this at 31. Seamus at 36. Do you think because this was that COVID year and we saw it kind of 2 years that hurt it a little bit for you, Seamus?
I don't think it hurt it. I just, again, I'm not a monsters guy. I think it was cool. It was more inventive than I think we've seen with a lot of monstrous houses. I liked the idea of, again, I'm a sucker for focusing on one monster and giving us that story, and maybe throwing in some additional monsters. And obviously, with The Bride, you have to have Frankie in it in some capacity. You can't not include Frankie, but it was a nice, change of pace compared to I think the one prior to this was the first time they did the big compilation house, right? That was the first time they did that. So I think going from the compilation to, hey, let's give a single character their moment to shine, I think that was a good idea. And that's kind of where I thought they were going to go with it going forward. And then they're like, no, we're going to start mashing as many monsters together as we can think of. And, love it or hate it, not for everybody. But
Yeah,
this one wasn't.
yeah.
No, this was. I mean, again, it wasn't bad, but I'm not a Universal Monsters guy to begin with, so
Yeah.
only one of them has been really, really high in my list, but otherwise,
Yeah, I do like that coming out of the compilation. They were like, let's just nail a story. Like, let's just get a really good story in this. Like, let's make this just incredibly tragic. We sprinkle some of, other monsters, but not too much. I think we had some like hints to other ones, and I believe the Bride of Dracula was in this as well, because I if I'm remembering correctly, I think they were like pulling the blood from them to help try to revive Frankenstein back. But I just remember that that facade, that front room where you're
Yeah.
walking by and there's like little holes and you can see through, and then you get there and it's just this big stage with Frankenstein crushed by a tree and dead, and the bride's up there screaming, and there's the lightning and stuff going on, I think. And it was just such a well done house. It definitely didn't hurt it because of the COVID year for me being at 17, seeing it twice, but I still I do wish I could go back and appreciate this one more, because I had done it so much during that HHN light that I don't think I went to it as much during the year of HHN 30. I do wish I could go back and rectify that and do it a little bit more, because that and Tooth Fairy, I was like, I saw him like dozens of times already going into the event. Like, it's not going to be high on my priority list on any given night. And I think that I think the general public and the community also felt that, because the wait times were never crazy for either this or Tooth Fairy. It seemed like people had kind of gotten what they needed to out of those houses and didn't necessarily revisit them as often as they would have if they were not previously opened for daytime guests. But man,
Yeah.
that story gets me. It's just so heartbreaking and tragic, and that's the hard part to nail in these monsters houses. Like we talked about Legends Collide previously, I still had a very fun time in there, but the story is convoluted. It's hard to follow. It's all over the place. Eternal Bloodlines, the story is even more, spider webbed of just ideas like here. They need to replicate stuff like this and just hone in on 1 to 2 characters max that are like the main story, and you could sprinkle a couple maybe or one other as just like a side character or whatever, but don't give them such a crazy convoluted story. Frankenstein died, the bride is mortified, and she's trying to find a way to bring him back to life. Done. Boom. There's no secret benefactors, there's no random characters being introduced, there's no characters dying halfway through the house that you don't know. Like, to just keep it like Michael always said, kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Hurt me
Yeah.
every time he said it. Jamie, you had this at 31, so you weren't too far off from Seamus, and you're not far off from the ranking of where it ended up landing. What are your memories of this house?
So that's where I was going to begin. I don't actually have too many memories of this house, which is crazy to say. I probably should have watched a little walkthrough or try to do something before recording this, but it's just so weird because we did do this house a lot during when they had it for during the daytime and stuff like that, and even Tooth Fairy as well. And I remember Tooth Fairy a lot, but even with you just mentioning the facade, like walking in, I don't remember any of that. I don't know if it's
Wow.
maybe,
Okay.
I know, which is terrible because I did have this ranked kind of in the middle, and I did for the small minuscule parts I do remember. Unfortunately, I just can't. And I was like, I know this wasn't a bad house, and there's no way that I was like not just sticking in my head, but I was like, I don't know, maybe it was the COVID year, but then again, like, I liked Beetlejuice. I remember Beetlejuice, and I remember Tooth Fairy, so I don't know what it was for me with the Bride house, because I do like the Bride of Frankenstein as a character, and I do like the other monsters that they used in this house. Like you said, Nick, I feel like they followed that kind of one storyline, not mixing too many parts together, which was nice, but just wasn't memorable for me, unfortunately. Maybe if I got a booster and watched a little walkthrough or something, it would help. But this is where I had her for right now, kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the hard part with these monsters houses, right? Because it's from 29 through I think 32.
Mhm.
We had, or no, 33. we had a monster house every year. Now they were obviously very different and stuff like that, but it's the same kind of pool they're pulling from. They have sort of a similar vibe, so it's like it's kind of hard to piece individual things from each house and nail it 100%. You're gonna have some crossover in that. So I understand why this is kind of a middle of the road house for us. 29 it's just creeping up on that halfway point for us. So let's move along now to number 28. This might be one of the most divisive houses. I don't know what the biggest gap in differences is yet. I will find out that number once we get to next week's episode. But somebody had this house in their top 10, and somebody had this at 40.
Yeah, they did.
I'm about to be mad.
This is Bugs Eaten Alive.
That's fucking crazy.
Who put it at 40?
What a dick. Oh, wait. Oh,
It's me.
So,
Sorry,
Seamus, just kick
guys.
us off. You have it at 40.
Yay, like Jamie says, this is our list, right? It's
Yep,
our list.
It's our own list.
I can't hate
This
on
is-
that. I can't.
I mean, no offense. This is how
Eating
this
my
house
own
is-
words.
This was far from a top 10 house for me, and
Well-
it's not just because like I have a thing about bugs, and I think that was maybe part of it, but I have a hard time ranking it really high because I was like, it made me physically sick to go through it. So like, I only did it like once or twice. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm done with that.
Never again.
So my ranking is more just my own personal opinion on it. I know that the house was good. This is not like, I don't think this is a ranking based on how good the house was overall or just objectively, but subjectively for me, it wasn't it. I was not okay with it. I didn't like it. I did it twice, and that was about all I needed to do.
That's okay.
Now, I'll let Jamie talk in a minute, but I had this, honestly, not too far off from Jamie. I had it at 34.
34. Oh my goodness.
I had fun with the house. I like the vibe of that, like that 50s era. I think I think when I was piecing all these together, there's parts of other houses that I just really like more. We've talked a lot about already the houses I had below it. So everything ahead of it that we're going to talk about for the most part is stuff that I had ranked higher than it. I thought it was fun. There was just a couple problems with the house. I think there was a handful of times when they had to move stuff around, like they got rid of characters, they moved characters around because things weren't working. I think it was just a less than average house for me, and that's kind of at that point that I had it. 25 being the halfway point, 34, it's not far off. It's not in the 40s, it's not in the high 30s. It's kind of, I think, right where I want it to be. But Jamie, top 10 house, number 9. Sorry, this is, I think, the first top 10 house of anybody that we're going to be talking about.
And that's okay too, because that should say a lot that I have an original in my top 10. You would think
That
it'd
is
be all
true.
ace. I know.
That is a good point.
Yes.
Yeah, at a quick glance, it does look like this is the first time we are talking about anybody's top 10s.
Ooh, fun. Well, there you
So
go.
we're cracking into some of the higher ranked houses,
Mhm.
which I think is gonna kind of lead to some shocking moments for some of us.
What
Some
it is,
OMGs.
I ruined your list because I made your 9 drop all the way down
That's
to
okay.
28.
That's all
Yeah,
right.
dropped 19. I
Damn.
don't know. I'm not good at math.
Math is crazy. Numbers are crazy.
Math be mathin'.
Math be mathin',
Math's
man.
hard.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so what really hit home to you about this house that made it so high?
So, at the beginning of the season, I really didn't have any sort of connection to this house. Didn't think it was anything crazy. I did think it was fun and cool and whatever. But there was a night that you had went to go take photos in scare zones, I think, or something. And it was still
Yep.
light outside. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go run bugs by myself. It's like a 10-minute wait. It's probably going to be a walk on, whatever. So I was like, walking in the back. And I was like, damn, there's like no one back here. And it was in the tent house, was obviously in the back. So I was like, man, this is great. I'm going to be like the only one in the house. And I literally was pretty much the only one walking through the house, which was awesome. So I feel like I got to look everything kind of in more detail. I got to get a lot of good scares. I got to look at the intricate little things that they added throughout and whatnot. And all around, I think this is one of the more unique and creative takes they've taken for an original house. I feel like it's very reminiscent of those B grade, C grade horror movies, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Giant Spiders from Hell, all those kind of crazy stuff. You would think this would be something like in a Slutter Cinema house. And I feel like now with having BuzzCon being brought about from the Bugsy and Alive house, I feel like that kind of gave us the Toxic 20 scare zone. It kind of opened the door for other, I know that I'm kind of blanking on what else it opened the door for, but other different things definitely kind of
mutations, Toxic 20s.
mutation, Toxic 20s. There's something else. What am I missing that BuzzCon had to deal with? Or is that all we got right now?
Dolls. It was on the battery and dolls.
On the battery and dolls. Just fun little Easter eggs that they've had to like still incorporate BuzzCon as being a thing and then maybe wanting to still use that idea to interpret into other houses, whatever. I think that's fun. But yeah, like I said, I love that 50s like fun aesthetic too, especially just like the infomercial style room when you first walk in and you had the lady, the scare actor on display kind of holding the I forgot what the aerosol spray was called, but the little spray or whatever that they used in the room, and then all the lights going and then the smoke coming out of the vent, and just it was so ridiculous and over the top and really fun. And that run that I had, I did get some really good scares in it, and I feel like that kind of really did it in for me. And I feel like it's one of those houses that I still look back on, even for being an original, and usually I'm the one who likes the IPs and always remember them room for room, but I feel like this one was very cool and memorable for me.
Yeah, it's definitely memorable because it was I think this house was a pretty big swing for them because it was
it's so different,
very
so
different.
weird. Yeah.
It was very different from other stuff that they had gone through, and they definitely went pretty head on into that. Like, I don't want to say comedy house, but it wasn't built to be scary. It was just built to have like this environment. And I thought that was a fun take. I enjoy that 50s era, almost like that Fallout-y style vibe. But yeah, just, for me, 34, kind of in the middle. So let's move along now to number 27. This we kind of all had pretty closely. Me and Seamus had the biggest gap, but Jamie sort of split the difference and was closer to Seamus. This would be a house that I'm assuming we might be talking about sooner rather than later.
This is true.
And this is HHN Icons Captured from 30. Now, Jamie had this at 28, Seamus at 32, and I had it at 20. So I had it in my top 20. But in this middle ground, I feel like the differences of like 11, 12, or 15 points is really not much. Like these middle houses could shift up or down 5 spots for anybody and still justify it being there. But I had a lot of fun with it. This was not my first Icon house because I was at 25, but this is the first Icon house that I got to do multiple times and it stuck with me. That's why I had it at 20. It was kind of, I don't know. This was when we started to finally cover the event. This is when we started to go to the event multiple times, run houses multiple times. So like, I still view this as like my Icon house, even though I had seen stuff at 25. But the ending I thought was very fun. Having that rotating cast, kind of trying to collect winners. But it is a compilation house at the end of the day. Like we talk about wanting story and environment, and this isn't a house that's going to deliver that. And it's not necessarily in a bad way, but that's the way this house is just specifically built. You get a scene in an icon, a scene at a different icon, and so on and so forth. So like, you're not going to build this big story. I mean, the story was all the icons are trapped in Fear's Lantern and we're going into Fear's Lantern. And, oh, didn't you know the vines spell icons? But I thought
that was cool.
It is cool, but it was just funny how everyone pointed it out.
No, it is funny.
It was such an obvious thing, and everyone's like, oh, this super hidden Easter egg. I was like, oh,
me?
You mean the letters that are lit like right in front of you as you walk in and you're meant to stare at?
I think I definitely pointed that out to you and was like, did you see that?
Like, yeah.
I did.
But no, I have pretty good memories of this. I thought it was fun to be able to see all of the icons. To even though it was just simply a room, it was still fun to be able to go through the movie theater with the usher and the director, and going on set with the director and seeing chances like lunatic
Playground.
whatever those places, those padded rooms. I had a lot of fun with this one. So Jamie, what were your thoughts? Because we're not too far off. You and Seamus are closer, but 28 is not that far off from 20.
No, and you would think, just knowing my style of houses, that I like this would be my number one freaking house, which it was a very fun house. I do love a compilation house. It was very cool to see past icons, some that I've seen in the past as well. Was a nice little reminiscing, nostalgic moment for me. Like you said, Nick, though, I think it really just comes down to things we've already seen in the past, which is nice and it's fun, but it didn't really have much of a story to it. And I know I'm the one who always says, oh, a house doesn't really need a story to be cool, blah, blah, blah. So I'll eat my own words on that. I know it didn't really have one, and I didn't really like that aspect. But I do think it was a fun, reminiscent house. Was there others that I think I enjoyed more? Clearly, because they were up higher than this one. But that doesn't mean I didn't like this house whatsoever, because I really did enjoy it and I thought it was fun.
Mhm. Now, Seamus, this was your first time with icons in a house.
Yeah.
I am surprised that didn't bump it up a little bit higher for you, but I also know you're very story driven as well. So the compilation
Yeah.
ones don't hit as hard usually.
I think, to be honest, I feel like it almost, I don't say hurt it, but it almost like dropped it because of that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have the same type of nostalgia for it as seemingly everybody else does, and obviously you guys do. For me, it's like it was cool, it was fun. I enjoyed seeing all the different characters in their own like element, their own world, and there were aspects of it that are memorable. I love the movie theater. I love the smell of popcorn. I think that was a cool, effective scene. I liked. Was this the one we had the caretaker in the mausoleum? Or was that?
Yeah, with the roses, the smell of the roses and everything.
Yeah, that was pretty cool too. So there was aspects to this that were memorable, but I can't say it was like a house that is going to live on in memory for me.
Yeah. And me and you are similar in that regard, where I haven't seen like the caretaker's icon house. I haven't seen the ushers' houses and storytellers' houses and all this stuff. Like I've only got to see the one at 25, which was and we had, I think, icons in a scare zone that year as well. So it's like I don't have that deep love for them as well, because I also didn't get to visit their introductions and stuff like that. So it doesn't hit as hard for me, but it still felt like I kind of got to revisit history a little bit with like a time machine of sorts,
Yeah.
and got a little taste of that. Now, I would have liked it more if I had gotten to see some of these icons in their first iteration, and then I got to see them again. It would have definitely moved it forward for me. But I think because it's just so iconic, it felt fun for me to be like, okay, I got to see something at least. If they didn't do that house, who knows what they'll do at 35. But if I didn't see this house, who knows when I'll ever see like an Usher house or any of those
true.
other characters in a house.
That makes
So
sense.
it hit a little bit harder for me there. So let's move up to number 26, and this is going to bring us back to, what year is this? 31. This one is kind of split amongst the group as well. Seamus, you had this at 18. I had it at 26. Jamie at 35. And I can tell exactly why Jamie had it at 35. And that's because she is sick of post-apocalyptic houses. This is Descendants of Destruction.
That I am, Nick.
So, Jamie, is that the reason?
That is the reason. Yeah, another one. Hey, this was an original post-apocalyptic house, so it got higher than some of these other ones on here for me, because I feel like the other ones we've gotten have mostly been IPs. So you know what, Descendants? You got up a little higher in my list, but you still managed to really get in that almost mid spot of the 26. You just were shy of the 25. But yeah,
Hey.
I thought this had a lot of cool set pieces, walking through the subway, I thought was really fun. The overgrown subway was really, really cool. If I'm not mistaken, Nick, you might be able to remind me, there was a part that we maybe walked through a plane or some sort of other broken down big piece of
I think it was the
mechanical.
train
Was it the
itself. I
train
think
that
we
you
walked
walked
through the
through again?
subway train.
You walk through the subway train, and then there's another thing that you walk through like a hall, and it's kind of overhead you. Anyways.
I think you might be thinking of the subway trains crashed because they used that mirror effect to make it look like the train like doubled its size, like it was extending beyond.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm gonna I'm gonna look.
Maybe I am missing something as well.
We have pictures from this house because we did the behind the scenes tour on this one. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head, Nick. Overall, I mean, I'm just not a fan of the post-apocalyptic house. It was kind of cool. I remember there was a cool room at the end too that they had some of the mushroom fungi creatures, I guess, but they were kind of in like the psychedelic colors, and that like forest was kind of like colorful and stuff. I really liked that part. Thought that was cool. There was some things that I did enjoy about this house, but overall, just wasn't for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, this is one I literally put it one off of the halfway point. I remember this house really grew on me. I think it grew on all of us over the course of the season. I think we had first done it and we're like, it's whatever. And then the more runs we got through, and I think the explanation of it through the tour helped us enjoy this a little bit more, because it was smart how it's smart how they make all these houses. But with this house, you kind of ramp up and you're physically higher, and every kind of room you sort of go down and you're descending every single room further down into the depths of wherever the hell it takes us, the caverns or the caves or the like the center of the earth, I think, is where those like glowy people had to go down to and live with whatever happened up on earth. But I remember just good scares, fun scenery, a lot of little hints and tricks that they pulled off. I think this is where they had the like electrocution floorboard, like it would buzz a little bit, because I think there was like batteries in that first scene.
I forgot about that.
Yep, I remember the little butcher guy was really cool. The big guy with like that rotten meat smell room where he was like chopping up human meat and stuff like that. But it did fall in that category of that post-apocalyptic. And now looking back with this big top 50 list, we're talking about 3 or 4 of them, and scenes do blend together, whether it's Quiet Place, Descendants of Destruction, Last of Us, not really Fallout, but like some of these scenes kind of blend together amongst these 4 houses. So it does get a little tricky this far removed from those events to differentiate everything. But Seamus, you did very much so enjoy this house at 18.
Yeah, I really like this house. Again, I don't think wasn't top 10 worthy, but I just remember being blown away with what they were able to pull off in a tent. And we're not talking one of the new tents. We're talking one of the old tents that, kind of like Puppet, and we haven't really talked about Puppet Theater yet, but same idea, where some of the things they were able to pull off, some of the tricks they were able to pull off, some of the illusion that they were able to create in a house, in a tent like that, I think really kind of blew me away in a lot of ways. And I think that, it did feel like you were going down into the ground. It felt like you were going, on a trip into the subway system, and then even below that into a certain world. Now, I mean, the end, I think, got a little, yeah, we've seen this before type thing, but I think everything leading up to that very last couple of scenes was just really, really cool and innovative, and that's why it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And before we move on, sorry to cut you off, Nick.
Yep.
I did go back in my photos on my phone back to 2022. You were correct. It was the overhead subway train. For those looking right now on YouTube, you could see it. That was very cool too. They did have a lot of big set pieces, especially for being in a tent house. I did like that. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. And we are officially at our halfway point now of number 25. And this is a house from last year.
Huh.
Now, this is spread about amongst the group. I had this house ranked the highest. I had this at 15.
Huh.
Jamie, 26. Seamus, 33. So you two aren't far off. And I think I know why I have this a little bit higher, but we'll find out. And that is WWE presents The Horrors of the Wyatt Six.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think I have this a little bit higher because I do have that love for that group and that wrestling era. Sheamus and myself grew up watching wrestling, but when we talked about this house many times, this is kind of during that time where Sheamus, I think you just kind of tuned out from wrestling at that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this group in particular is kind of one of the reasons that got me back into it. You know, when I saw the Wyatts, the Wyatt family, the original Wyatt family with Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and Bray Wyatt on NXT, that was like, oh, this is my interest is peaked. I'm tuning in for these guys now, and I followed them all the way through multiple iterations of the Wyatt family, and then we had Bray Wyatt as a solo run, and then we had this Wyatt Six group that kind of came out, and obviously the Firefly Funhouse. It was just fun watching the evolution of his character grow, not just as a in-ring performer, but I don't want to say primarily, but he was head and shoulders above every other wrestler and wrestling faction when it comes to that storyline, building the story of the Wyatts, filming these cinematic matches, filming these very cinematic promos, and very creepy. It drew me back in instantly, and I just had so much fun. Kind of like that we're talking about the icons captured. Like if they didn't have that house, who knows if I'd see any of these again. This is a house we'll never see again.
Mhm.
I'm pretty certain we're never going to see a Wyatt Six or a wrestling themed house. Yeah, maybe. People probably said that when they had the Undertaker house in Hollywood decades ago. And for it's been that long. Who knows if it'll ever happen again? Not with anybody that's currently on the rosters. Who knows? Maybe in 20 years at HHN, 55 or whatever, there's some other wrestling group that has climbed the ranks and has something in that horror world that makes it make sense to have it there. But I don't see myself ever seeing anything like this ever again. So Seamus, why don't you talk on your 33 ranking?
Yeah.
Similar to that.
I mean, I think I kind of have a lot of the same feelings you do. I just don't think it was, just wasn't as memorable of a house for me. I mean, again, remember, we're trying to rank 50 houses here.
Yeah. And we're in the middle.
You're right. And I just feel like there were just a lot of houses up that I just remembered more and was more fond of that were higher. I think you're right. Part of it was I don't have as much of a attachment to later wrestling. I mean, it was definitely, as a kid, I have a huge attachment to the Attitude Era and that sort of time. And I feel like Wyatt. I feel like the Wyatt Bray. I feel like he kind of was a connecting rod to that era. I think he was truly not only ahead of his time, but also knew how to tap into that, to that era. And it probably comes from the fact that he grew up during that era too. I mean, he had a dad wrestling at that time. Like he grew up watching that, probably a lot, a lot closer than we ever did, because he was probably literally there. So I think that this was an opportunity Universal couldn't pass up. I think that's kind of what this was. I think they came to them and said, "Hey, we want to do something with you. We need to figure this out. I want to," and whether that was WWE or a combination of WWE and Bray's brother, Bo, I don't know how much of it, I don't know how much of it was them and how much of it was Universal, but I think it just kind of came together and they were like, "We have to make this happen. We got to do it for Bray." And I think that's what made it so good for me was that's what it really was. It was a tribute to him more than anything else.
Yeah.
I just think that as a haunted house, it just wasn't as up there. It wasn't as high enough in the rankings for me as some of the other more traditional haunted houses were.
Yeah, I get that. And Jamie, obviously the only wrestling you watch is if I have it on TV. So this isn't necessarily your wheelhouse, but you had it at 26, so you had it right about that halfway point.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I mean, the only time I do watch wrestling is occasionally when Nick has it on. I don't not willingly, I shouldn't say that. I don't go out of my way to go put it on myself and go watch something. But I do remember one night Nick telling me, this was a couple years back, he was like, "Oh, you got to come check this out. I really think you're going to like this guy. Or I think you're going to like these, like, whatever, and all this kind of stuff." I remember him showing me Firefly Funhouse and Bray Wyatt and that kind of whole segment when he was doing that with Alexa Bliss and stuff like that. And I was like, man, this is like super cool and creepy and weird and kind of like Rob Zombie, like that hellbilly backwoods thing. I really, really like it. So I thought that was really fun. And then when the Wyatt Six came about and everything like that, I was like, man, these are really cool characters. I feel like that's the one thing I do like about wrestling. And I think I've told Nick this before. I do like all the different like personas and stories and different like characters all these wrestlers get to be and stuff. I do think that's really fun. But you said it before, Nick. I mean, Bray would just make these just cinematic masterpieces of this for wrestling. And I mean, I feel like you don't really see other wrestlers who were doing that kind of thing, and it was just so standoutish, and especially for being in that horror realm, it was very enjoyable for a lot of people, and it was something different and it was unique. And I gotta agree too, I don't think we'll ever get another house like that, so I think that's why I did want to have it right in the middle. Even if I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, I still enjoyed the house for what it was, and it was a good house. And it is fun to see people who are fans of wrestling, who are friends of or fans of Bray and everything like that, just getting to see their excitement and joy out of this house too is really nice also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And like we were kind of, Seamus sort of alluded to, we're not talking about stinkers at this point. We're in the upper half.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will have something that they ranked very low and people ranked very high. Time will tell
Mhm.
as we go through this list a little bit more. But we're now comparing. We're splitting hairs at this point now. It's just kind of what it is. None of these are bad houses by any stretch of the imagination. So let's move up now to one that maybe contradicts exactly what I just said. And that is going to be the Weekend After Hours Nightmare at the 24 spot.
All right.
Seamus had it at 11. I had it at 21. Jamie, you got some explaining to do to Seamus.
What's up?
'cause you had this at 40.
Did
What's
I?
up?
Look,
What's
did
up with that?
You
God
did.
damn.
I? Oof. Hate to,
You did.
Yikes.
hate to.
I don't think I made an error.
No, I don't think you made an error either. I just forgot I had put it this low, honestly. I think, yeah, I mean, no hate to The Weeknd, honestly. I like his music. I like the house for what it was. I feel like I just had too many other options to pick through of houses that I thought were more memorable and enjoyable for me. And that's just personal bias.
39 other houses.
39 other houses that I
That's
enjoyed.
a lot of
Thanks.
houses.
That is a lot of houses that I enjoyed more. I mean, same thing we were just talking about with the WWE house. I don't think we'll ever get another Weekend house again, so that was pretty cool. And I feel like it was a very controversial house topic, but fuck it, we ended up getting it and it ended up working, and people enjoyed it. And like I said, I feel like my ranking doesn't reflect this house because it was a good house for what it was, and it was a music house, and I enjoy the music houses, but just not my favorite, I guess. I don't know. I feel like a hater, but just it's not really my thing, I guess. It was cool, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to split the difference here. So, Seamus, why don't you give your thoughts as to why it almost cracked the top 10?
11's
it was
pretty
almost-
crazy though, Seamus. I want to hear this.
I don't think it's that crazy. I think this house, for what it was unique. It was different.
Agreed.
It wasn't something that I think anybody really expected. I think there's a little tiny bit of I like to light things that piss everybody off, and
Really?
and I think that this really pissed some people off. Memorable arguments with individuals in line at Horror Nights over whether or not this is quote unquote horror. But
Yeah.
I think that it was a little undue hate because it wasn't like they took something that had nothing to do with anything horrific or anything horror based. That album that he based it on was very, very dark. It was a very dark album. And I think there are reasons why people didn't like the house, but I feel like it just had a certain vibe to it. It was fun. It was upbeat. It was scary. It was different. There was a term I like to use leading up to it. It was overwhelming. I think overwhelms the senses a lot of ways because it was loud, bright, but at the same time still really gory and spooky. So I think that it it is one of the more unique and better experiences I've had in the last 5 years. So that's why didn't quite crack the top 10. I think there were just better houses for the top 10, but it was close.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the same kind of spot where it almost cracked my top 20. This was a very vibey house. It was, like you said, it was very overstimulating. It was just very fun and creative to see how they did take that album that you did say was, dark. I don't listen to The Weeknd. I think I might have listened to a couple songs leading up and watched a couple music videos just to kind of get an idea of what to possibly expect. And I was very pleasantly surprised because I can't say I didn't have reservations because this is a house, and there's a couple other houses that we talked about where we sort of have preemptive reservations because we just don't know. It's not saying I don't want this here. It's just that I don't know what this is going to be. Kind of like the house we just talked about, WWE. Like leading up to this event, we didn't really know. Was it going to be Wyatt Six, Wyatt Family, Bray Wyatt? Like we kind of know. Like we know that this is The Weeknd. Okay, what does that entail? Is it like just shot for shot his music videos? Is it just him playing music? Like we don't know. And I was very happily surprised because it was gruesome, it was gory, it was very fever dream-ish, and it was a very fun time. And that is probably, if we were ranking this on queue line experiences, I think this would be number one. Just having the Weeknd song playing and people vibing, and it was like a concert. Like there's no other house lines that are like this, like ever. And it'll only happen again in music houses if they have that person or group's music playing to kind of create that atmosphere. Because more often than not, you're watching a fucking trailer for Megan 2 or some random Blumhouse movie that came out 6 years ago. Like that's what most queue lines are at this point. This was different. It was special. And this is, again, it's funny that this is paired up with back to back with Horrors of the Wyatt Six, because these are both houses that would be very hard to replicate, and I can't see them ever doing again. Not specifically a music house, but specifically a weekend house. I really don't know if we'll get to see that again in Orlando. So, I'm sure the door's open, but like we saw with all the, canceled Billie Eilish stuff house, people's personas change pretty rapidly in the music industry. So, his I don't know what his vibe is now, but it might not be something that's conducive to a Horror Nights house. But I think those CDs or albums that they had used for the basis of these houses were fitting in that category. So, I had a very good time with this one.
And that's fair. I think those are fair criticisms of it.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. So let's move along now to number 23, and we are going back to HHN 30. So 30 is pretty prominent in this middle episode of ours. This is one that we all had pretty similar. This is Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland. Seamus had it at 24. I had it at 25. Jamie at 18. So we're not far off at all. So Jamie, just because you had this the highest, is it, again, these compilation houses are hard to execute because I think they have a high ceiling and a low floor, and it's feasible for them to obtain either of them. This one kind of split the difference for us, being pretty much in the upper middle, but closer to middle part. So again, a compilation house was it just because you got to see some stuff that you saw as a kid back there, or like is that part of it?
No, that definitely is part of it. I'm selfish. As I was just saying, again, going back on my own words, I do like compilation houses, it turns out, and I did have this ranked pretty high. But yeah, Nick, 100%. It was very fun to see some of these old houses. I mean, we had the Meets in there. It was really fun to see the schoolhouse, which was one of the first houses I ever did at HHN. It was cool to see the section that they had for the orphanage. Very fun little callbacks and stuff like that. But I like that they brought it together as being like the Cary, Ohio realm. I thought that was a fun connection to kind of see all those different things and whatnot that represent Cary, Ohio, and just brought it together all in one house, and kind of a nice little reminder of the olden days of HHN, and kind of it's fun to see it kind of as like being its own little like fake town. I don't know. I like the idea of it. It reminds me of WandaVision, kind of like Westview and stuff like that. Just creating and creating your own little town. So I did like Welcome to Scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Seamus, we had this pretty much right in the middle. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, again, this is kind of like the Icon's house for me. I think what dropped it was my attachment to the scary timeline isn't as deep as some of others. So I enjoyed it. I think, like you said, compilation houses can be kind of tough because you might have a few scenes that are good, a few scenes that aren't as good, or at least they don't hit as hard for you. Um, but I think overall it was a fun house. It was cool to see a lot of this. But again, I think just not having much of an attachment to it definitely dropped it a little bit. But again, still, a top 25, I think, is nothing to shake a stick at, especially for someone who hasn't had as big a attachment to it. So I think overall it worked out in that way.
Yeah, it's kind of very similar thoughts to myself. You can only read so much stuff online about some of these houses and properties, but going through them is a whole different story. And seeing these characters and then seeing them return 10, 15, 20 years later means a little bit more to you when you have that. We don't. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go to this event back in the heyday when we got introduced to those characters, like the Meets characters and the oh god, I'm brain farting, but yeah, like with the orphanage and
H&R
HR
Blood and
Blood and
Guts.
Guts. Yeah, like
Yep.
we didn't get to see that stuff firsthand. So this was our first experience, and it almost like I don't want to say left a sour taste in my mouth, but like I just wanted to see more of certain things, and knowing that it's a compilation house and knowing that you're restricted, you don't get to spend that much time with them. Would I have liked to have seen a straight up meet / HR Blood and Guts house, because those were probably my favorite moments? Yeah, I would have liked that. But I understand that they still had to touch on some of all like the other stuff in the Cary, Ohio lore that people wanted to see and get a call back to, and I get it. I think I unfairly, going into the season, built this up way more so in my head of what it was going to be, because it was like I was excited. I was like, oh, I get to see all this stuff that I never got to see before, and I just got like such a little taste, a tiny little morsel of Carrie lore in each room, and I didn't get to spend enough time in each room and soak in those atmospheres and characters. So it's right in the middle for me. It's at the 25 spot, so it's again it's not knocked down. It's not bad. I would have liked to have spent more time in certain areas and got to spend more time with those characters. But it's I think 23 on our official list. That's a more than fair spot for that.
No, I agree with that 100%.
So let's move up now. Again, another house, number 22, a house where we're all pretty similar on. Seamus at 23, Jamie at 24, me at 19. So very close. And that is another character we are probably going to be talking about a lot coming up into this season. And this is Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. This was a fun one. So this is why when it comes to Jack versus Oddfellow, maybe not house-wise, but discussion-wise, I lean towards Dr. Oddfellow because this was my, well, maybe not first, because I guess you want to count Wicked Growth, but this was my first like icon house, like brand new icon. I don't remember at 26 the chant stuff all too much because I came one night. I had no idea at that point still. 25, 26, I came to the event. I had no idea about the history. I knew it was haunted houses. I showed up, I got shit-faced, and I went through houses. That was it. There was no like, oh, I need to research. Oh, I wonder what's on the spec map. There was none of that. I showed up, I did a couple houses, I had a good time. Dr. Oddfellow was, in my eyes, like the icon of my HHN going. I got to experience him in a scare zone, be introduced to him, and see a house of him all in 1 year. So I just hold that's a pretty personal house to me. That's why I like that so much. I had it in the top 20. I just had so much fun with this house. It was scary. It was wild. The characters were crazy. You had the lion puppet scare. You had Dr. Fellow in the house. You had the little clothing rack scare, which was always really fun. Wacky clowns. You had a lot of jump scares, but it wasn't necessarily scary material. But man, I really liked going through this house a lot, and the colors of it. I loved Oddfellow's appearance. I loved the cane. I loved the lighting in there. I just had so much fun. So I mean, Jamie, just because you had the lowest out of us, which again, it's not low by any stretch of the imagination, but what worked for you in this house?
I really, like you said, Nick, it was really fun to see another like original icon house and an icon that we haven't really gotten to see before, new to pretty much all of us, even though we've heard bits and pieces. Like you said, I know you didn't really delve into too much. I wasn't even too prevalent or privy to Dr. Oddfellow's lore and back history, but just the connection with Jack the Clown obviously made me like him off the rip. So, but I have always gravitated towards those like circusy freak show kind of houses. And man, this was just, it felt like you were walking through a circus like the Big Top, and seeing freak, it reminded me of American Horror Story Freak Show, which I feel like is a great comparison because that was a fun season and it was just the different characters that you had. I mean, one of my favorites was, I think, was the bullhead and the tutu, like the ballerina with the bullhead tutu. That one
Yeah.
was so fun. Like you said, the big lion scare was really cool. I feel like every time we walked through this house, we always saw something different. Like I would point something out and I'd be like, was that there before? Or like, I didn't see that before, which I thought was really, really fun and just a good way to kind of introduce you to Dr. Oddfellow, like you said. And I really liked his character design as well. I think especially when you got to see like his sharp teeth that you had, I just thought that was a really cool, subtle addition just to kind of make him feel more sinister. But overall, I think Dr. Oddfellow works as a great icon and I love his theming and his whole persona. So yeah, I mean, even though I did have this ranked lower logistically, I still very much enjoyed this house.
Yeah, this was a chaotic house.
Yeah.
But so, Seamus, what are your memories of Dr. Oddfellow?
To be honest, I don't have a ton of memories about it, and I don't know if it's just because I didn't do it enough, but I do remember what I do remember of it. I can't talk tonight.
Me
Is
either, it's
that
all right.
it was colorful, it was out there, it was different, it was weird. I'm not a big clown guy. I've said that before, but I think this one was a little bit better because it felt like, the Big Top. It felt like it was just kind of like The Weekend. It was wacky. It was out there. It was unique. It was different for a clown house. Obviously not something like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but then again, that's the difference between something that's an IP versus something that's an original. I like the character of Dr. Oddfellow. I'd like to learn more about him. I'd love to see him come back and do something else. But like Nick said, this is like our first true icon house. If you don't count Case Files.
Yeah.
That I think just really did speak to the power of what an icon house can be.
Yeah, this one was just, and we didn't even mention it, but you just mentioned it. The whole coloring of the tent itself, the sprung tent, was really
Right.
a nice addition. And kind of walking up like we're entering the circus tent was just a fun way to, other than building like an external facade, they lit it up so that way it enhanced the experience that much more without just doing anything crazy. It was just a very subtle thing, and it built you into this story a little bit more. So I loved that one. Here's another divisive one, number 21. I maybe just don't remember this as well as I should. I had this at 35. Seamus, 21.
Yeah.
Jamie at 8.
I'm nervous.
This is Halloween.
Oh
Top
my
10.
God, you guys are so annoying.
Halloween. I love Halloween. I love Michael Myers. I put it at 35. It wasn't super memorable to me.
What?
It played the hits, but for whatever reason, it just didn't hit. Maybe it's an unfair ranking. Maybe I need to circle back and check this thing out again because this was from 31. So it's just, this is something, maybe because I have so much pastime of like watching all the movies and all that, like I'm just confusing a lot of stuff, but I really don't remember much from this house. I remember walking up towards the house and by it, I remember we accidentally walked through the curtains that one night
Sure
on the
did.
opening
Had to
night.
say sorry to Mikey.
Bumped right into Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't the first time I have seen Halloween at the event. I think I saw Halloween 4 previously at the event. So I'm not Mikey'd out, but it just didn't hit for me. I think I definitely favored the originals. I got to look at that in the data, but I just don't know why it is as low as I put it. Could I put it in my 20s? Probably, but that's where it landed for me. And Seamus, before we get to Jamie, I mean, you had a 21, so it's not like it was
That's good.
as low as I had it, but still lower-ish.
I
in
mean, again,
comparison.
top 25. It's one of my favorite slashes of all time. But I think the house was just fine. It was fine. It was a fine house. It was fun. It was nice to see Mike. It was cool to finally experience that, in that type of environment. But again, it didn't really, for me, didn't do anything that broke the mold. Like, it really didn't leave me with any lasting, holy crap, like that was a wild moment. It was just a lot of, hey, this is cool. This is fun to see. I mean, shit, it's not the Jason house. Sorry to keep bringing it up, but like, at least it felt unique and different, and they did different things with the story, and they tried to like combine a lot of different elements of, his lore. And I think it worked out really well. It's just, again, there were just 20 houses that I just remember so much more fondly than this.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, Jamie, you only have 7 houses that you remember more fondly ahead of this, and you had this at 8. So,
Yeah.
what is it? Just because it's Mikey? Like, is it just because you like going to walk through the movie? Essentially,
I do. I enjoy walking through the movie. I'm an absolute sucker for it. It just makes me so happy. And it's just, I feel like having Halloween at the event, talking about the film, is just, it's so cliche to say, but it's the epitome of Halloween. Like, having Halloween at Halloween Horror Nights makes me just so excited, makes me really get into the spooky spirit, knowing I could see Mikey for almost 2 months anytime I want. It's just really fun. And we did have that funny experience where we unfortunately got a little caught up on the path and ran into Mikey and almost went backstage and had to start working with him. But glad they were so nice about it. But just like even walking up and seeing, it was either, I know it's still, I had this rated so high because I remembered it so fondly. But when we had the facade of Laurie's house or Michael's house, you first walk up to it and then you literally kind of curve a little bit and then you walk into the house and then you get into through the rooms in the house. Just really fun. Like I said in the beginning, kind of just walking through that movie set. And even if too, before you walked up and stuff, you kind of walked through the clotheslines with the drapes hidden, like in the first movie, you kind of, and that's one of the most, other than the hedge scene that he stands behind, I feel like that's such an iconic scene where Laurie sees him through the window, kind of peeking behind the linen on the clothesline. So I thought that was fun that they added it in there. Just kind of a great like ode to Halloween and being such a classic horror film that so many people love. So yeah, I ranked Mikey and Halloween pretty high on this list. Pretty high.
So we got
pretty high.
Pretty
Um,
cool.
So we got 2 of Jamie's top 10s in this episode already.
I thought this was going to be something else. I'm surprised what I thought was going to be lower is still on the board. I'm curious.
Still kicking around. I
Mhm.
think I know what you're talking about, and
Maybes.
yeah, we'll see if we talk about
Uh-huh.
it. Number 20. Let's get into something that Jamie tanked a little bit for me and Seamus.
Uh-oh.
I had this at 14.
Uh.
Seamus at 16. So me and him were pretty simpatico
Mhm.
there. Jamie, 33. You just couldn't let Hatchet and Lames die. You had to keep it rolling.
That big old stinker.
Hatchet and Chains, Demon Bounty Hunters at number 20, top 20. That's fine. It's an acceptable
I was just going to say that's good.
spot to be in.
Mhm.
But this isn't even
33,
one that
I don't
like,
think is acceptable.
this isn't even one that like she ranked low that I think is like offensive. Like this one, I understand why she ranked it at 33. There's a few we haven't got to it yet, and so we're not going to get to the next episode. That I'm gonna like Jamie. We're gonna have words, but that's besides the point. But yeah, no, I mean this is fair. She didn't like this house. We knew that kind of going into it. It wasn't going to be her thing. So it doesn't really blow me away that she ranked it at 33. I don't think 33 isn't that low. I mean, it's low.
No,
but it's
I was
not
going to
like,
say I really didn't think it was that bad.
No, it's just it's we're at the point where the low numbers aren't really like low anymore, but it's not there's still a gap between them.
Yeah.
There's still going to be somewhere of a 15 to 10 rank gap.
Mhm.
And yeah, 33 out of 50 is not low by any stretch of the imagination. But compared to 16 and 14, it's lower. That's for sure.
Yes.
I loved this house. I probably could have ranked this thing higher if I redid this one. We got our Western, we got our chaos, we had really good scares. The character design was amazing. We had the character out front on the entrance, which is always a nice little touch that they don't always do. I had a blast with this. They had this house is how you use a screen at Halloween Horror Nights.
Facts.
With the train scene. That's how you use a screen. You don't use it as a background. You use it to incorporate the setting that you're in. Oh man, this one it was relentless from the get-go. Very narrow paths coming at you from either side. I had such a good time in this house, and I'm so glad that it got the call up from the Slaughter Cinema too. Rightfully so. I think it had the best storyline. I think it had the most to do. So we talked about this house a lot, so I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. But Seamus, similar thoughts because we had it at similar spots.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think this house was one of the better ones we've had in recent memory. It was one of the better ones last year. Not the best one last year by far, but it was definitely memorable, and it's not something we've seen too often. You don't get to see too many Western style horrors, so I think that's what really was so so memorable about it. But you're right. I mean, that last like train set piece or scene or screen, whatever you want to do, like if you're going to use screens and use like video effects, that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. So let's move along now to number 19. This is a house that I tanked for us. Kind of similar rankings to the last house, Hatch and Chains. You had that at 33, Jamie. This number 19 house, I had it at 33.
Wow.
Funny.
Jamie, you had this house at 10.
Oh God.
Seamus
Another
at
top
17.
10.
I'm not looking at my list right now. I'm just.
This is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy from HHN30.
Oh, okay. All right. That's okay. That's okay.
I think 33 for me is fair. I think unfairly it got hurt because of how many times I went through it in HHN Light. I think that's what happened. And I think also the screens, the little protective COVID screens, the little centimeter of plastic that prevented disease. Yeah, sure, that totally works. But I think this house was supposed to be very in your face, and they couldn't do that. Obviously, with the characters being smaller, I think size isn't going to scare you, but distance will. And the way they built a lot of these rooms, you were next to these shower curtains, and they were supposed to be right there, I think, in your face. And it just, because of that, it hurt it for me. I think the story is very fun and original. I think taking this child story or whatever, bedtime story or myth or whatever a tooth fairy is, and warping it is really fun. That entrance room was so simple yet amazing. I loved that storybook style animation and that the voiceover, like it was a book being read to you, I thought was so unique. It's something that I would like to see them maybe try to do again, as long as it fits whatever house they're trying to put it into. I loved that. So that's that. It's weird me saying all this stuff I love about it and having it at 33, but
It's okay.
Jamie at 10, what worked so well for you in this one?
Yeah, I mean, as an original, being at 10, I mean, that says a lot. You said it already for me, though, what my main topic was going to be. Just that I will never forget that entrance room. I love that storybook setting. And I think this is honestly one of my favorite sound stages that they do use for houses, because you kind of lead up on that path, and then we had the little banners hanging, kind of leading you to up to the front where you had like the story being told and the different panelings on the wall. It really kind of reminded me of in the newer Candyman, that kind of like flip book setting, or like in Krampus, how they do the flashbacks and that kind of like flip book animation style. Really, really loved it. And like you said, I always think it's fun to take like I mean, we've seen it in scary tales and stuff like that, but like the nursery rhymes or like children's stories and like turning them dark, I've always thought that's been a really cool concept. And it did kind of suck a little bit that we had the COVID restrictions and whatnot with the screens and stuff, but I still feel like even with having that, the scare actors still went really hard in this house, and I feel like that little tooth fairy, elfy gremlin guy that we see mostly throughout the house is such like an iconic character now. We've seen him roaming around in multiple scare zones, I think, at this point, kind of as a callback, which is fun. But overall, just a really cool and creative idea that, like you said, I hope to see more houses like this, kind of like in that style.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Seamus, 17, great spot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think again, this house it's right up my alley. I like the messed up fairy tales. I think they've definitely kind of missed the mark on not having anything else like this since. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't gotten another messed up fairy tale type original since this one, and I think Nick's right. I think there's an element to doing it too much that kind of can hurt it a little bit. And maybe that's why it's not even higher on my list. It could be that I just did it almost too much, but I still think, easily upper third when it comes to all 50 over the last 5 years. It was just a very, very memorable house.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. It was, no, I think looking at the numbers, it seems a lot worse off, but I still had very good memories about this house. And like you said, I hope that this is a trend that they maybe pick back up at some point, and whether that's a Scary Tales revisit or something like that. I think the fairy tale world is something that still has a lot to be explored at HHN for us. Let's get back to number 18. So we are now going back to HHN 32. This is one that we're all pretty close on.
Again,
And
I'm surprised a little bit by
I'm
this.
surprised that I had this low as I did. I had this at 22. Jamie at 20 and Seamus at 15. I really thought I would have had this higher.
I thought you would have too.
You know what? I think maybe I would have had this a little bit higher, but I thought you both were going to have this lower, honestly. And that is Yeti Campground Kills. It is number 18, which again, this is a great spot. This is, a good spot to be for houses. But yeah, I have to look at my list, maybe 1 through 50 again, and see if that's exactly where I wanted it, or could it be shifted? I think I did shift this around a couple times. But yeah, it's campground, it's Yeti, it's a timepiece. It's an environment that I am familiar with and hold true to my heart in campgrounds. So I had a lot of fun in this house. But Seamus, you had it at 15. I mean, we both kind of grew up going to campgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
there was so much nostalgia for, growing up going camping. And I practically lived at a campground over the summer. You practically lived at a campground over the summer. So it's something that we both have fond memories of. But I just feel like I remember this house and how fun it was compared to the original Yeti, which was good in its own way. But this one was just fun. There was so many fun elements, so many memorable scenes in this house that really kind of, I just remember having a good time. Like when Billy kills the baby Yeti. I'm like, Billy, you son of a bitch! Like it was between that and the trailer and like the dog getting slaughtered in the trailer, and I just and the what are those things? Like,
what the hell are those?
It's just, there's just so many things about it that I remember vividly. This being so fun, and this house had the bear in it too, didn't the big bear that like moved moved? I think it
so.
was.
Yeah.
It was the big like Bruins bear, like the big brown bear, and it would like everyone thought it was fake, and it would move, and it was just there's just so many things about this house that I can remember very, very fondly, which I think to me, like coming up to our last house of the episode, I think was more than I think maybe how you guys felt about the next one. I feel like maybe how you feel about the next one is how I feel about Yeti.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. I similar, but I think the next one we'll talk about, I had that same feeling where it was just such a fun time for me. So Jamie, at 20, me and you are pretty spot on this. So what were your thoughts on Yeti campground kills
Like you said, you
or
guys.
campground? Yeah, campground
Yeah,
kills.
yeah, yeah. You guys do have that connection to the campground, which I absolutely love. And growing up in good old Orlando, Florida, I didn't really grow up going to summer camp or anything like that. That was just on like TV shows, and I'm like, man, it would be so cool to like go to a camp and like actually stay there. I didn't even think it was a real thing. I just thought it was just the shit that they put in shows, honestly. But turns out I was fooled. So it's definitely a real thing, and I just didn't get to experience that. Um, like you guys said, I just feel like this was a really fun. I'm going to use one of Nick's favorite words, a schlocky house. It was really cool. I thought it was, I'm usually not a big, like, I don't want to say a big fan of the comedy houses. I enjoy them, but I usually like a little bit scarier sometimes. But overall, I thought this was a cool setting. We had a good time every time we ran this house. And it was fun kind of having those like cult followings behind that little thing now, killing the baby Yeti and having the big bear and stuff like that. Just ended up being an all around, how do I explain it? It was fun to see them seeing the previous version of the Yeti house that we had before, being able to kind of turn it into this Yeti Bigfoot-esque house. I just really like how we were kind of able to see the two sides of it, which was fun. Different iterations.
It is funny that it's still called Yeti, but it was definitely more Bigfoot.
Yeah, but it's cool. I liked it.
Yeah. But great house. I had a lot of fun with this one. Well, let's jump up to number 17. And it's interesting because we ended last week's episode on a tie. We're also ending this week's episode with a tie.
Oh, my goodness.
So number 17 is tied with number 16. However, this one lost the tiebreaker. The house that we will start next week's episode with was ranked higher overall by somebody. And number 17 for us, we are going back to 33, I believe it is. This is Goblin's Feast. I had this at number 12. And I think the point that Seamus was making was I had so much fun in this house.
Yeah.
It was just, you're walking through and you're clapping along to the songs. And it's just like, even though they're going to eat you and kill you for their Goblin's Feast, it was just such a fun, vibey house. Each goblin was very different in their own interactions. These settings and the scenery in this house were not something I had expected. It definitely took me by surprise because I was like, oh, Goblin's Feast. Like, I remember when this got announced, we're all of us, the text chat blew up. It was like, what the fuck is this? Like, how? What? Like, this can't be serious. And then we go through it, and I was like, wow, this is just not at all what I expected. Like, we have that, the grand scale of this village. You know, they had the whole working, whatever, it's like water mill or water, not fountain, but whatever that's
the water wheel
called, but the water spinning wheel thing. We had that in a house, and like we had houses on top. Like, it was just, the scale of it is not something you'd expect in a house called Goblin's Feast. You'd expect something maybe small, claustrophobic, in your face. They did the opposite. They went and expanded this world. So I had it at 12. Now, Jamie, you had it at 15, so pretty close to me. So similar experiences, I'm guessing?
Oh, for sure. I just feel like the set design alone was so beautiful for what we thought was going to be such a goofy house. And it was a goofy house, but it worked. I mean, none of us were really intrigued by the thought of a Goblin's Feast. We're like, oh, there's going to be another one of those kind of fantasy style houses, whatever. So we're like, maybe not for us. And like you mentioned, I think we all did it together for the first time. And after we came out, we were like, damn, that was pretty fun. But there's just certain aspects, like even just the way they played with the lighting in the house too. There was one of my favorite scenes in that whole house, and it was so simple. When and it was off to the right side, you're kind of walking through like the kitchen-y area, and you see the glass pane windows kind of up on the roof, in quotes, of the house, with the light, like sunlight peeking through with all the dried herbs and flowers kind of hanging from it. And just like the way that they could play with like that sunlight work, just like being in a dark house and just using lighting like that, just so many cool little details that just really added to like the whole like ambiance of the house. And it was just such a fun time every time we ran through it.
Yeah. And like they just had so much stuff too, because we didn't even talk about the little Russian doll scare that they have,
Yep,
like
that
the
was fun
big
too.
giant
Yeah.
goblin
Uh-huh.
statue, huge, popping out of that. And then at the end, the like whatever that mega goblin or whatever the fuck it was called,
Mhm.
just the animatronic or whatever, or the puppet was just insane. So Seamus 26, so again, just outside the top half, but still high.
Yeah, I think again, like I said, I think for how I felt about Yeti, I think is how you feel about this one, and I totally understand because I think the house was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. I just don't think I have as many memories of it as I think as others do. And I remember this house when it was announced, I was like, oh shit, here we go again. They're trying to get me with the whole dragons thing. I know what they're doing here, but it turned out it was a fun time. It was one of those houses where it's like it's not scary. It's not going to scare you, but it's definitely going to leave you smiling, and I think that's what it did for the most part. But yeah, I mean, again, not one that I'm super like high on. Definitely not top 10 for me, but still like right in the middle is kind of where I stuck it.
Yeah, it's up there. I was just looking at this list. So we're obviously done with today. So this middle part was there. We were all pretty similar on a couple of these. I think Jamie was probably the most different
Uh-huh.
in this because we did talk on 3 of her top 10s, and I was just looking
We did.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we haven't talked about any of my top 10 houses. 1, 2,
None of mine
3,
either.
4, 5, 6, and none of Seamus's. So we're still safe, so to speak.
We're gonna have
man,
some discussions next week. I can tell you that much.
there's going to be a lot of discussions, and I think we're going to start with one pretty hefty. I think the next house that we're going to be talking about is going to be
definitely, but I feel like
There's a couple I
there's
didn't
a
think would
few in
even make
here.
it this far.
There's a few in here that like let's just say I got one that's in my top 5 and I'm a little perturbed of where some people ranked it.
Oh.
Yeah, next week's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a
we're
fun discussion.
I think we're going to start with some explosions, some fireworks, and
I think it's going to be lots of fireworks to be sure.
it's going to be a pretty hefty episode, that's for sure. Probably going to be similar to this week's episode, where I think next week we will probably start off by talking about some stuff from 35, depending upon the MegaCon reveal. Like I said, maybe we'll do a YouTube live if we can find the time and something is worthwhile to talk about. But yeah, no, this 3-part saga trilogy of episodes, I'm having a lot of fun with. I will find some data amongst all of these numbers and pull some stuff, maybe based off of like average rankings of years and originals and stuff like that. But we'll get to that next week. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for Universal for giving us our very special
Yay.
35 ticket.
Appreciate the shout out.
Super cool.
Yeah, and more importantly, thank you to everyone who's listening and commenting and following along, because
if it wasn't for you guys, this never would have happened. So
no, we've been doing this for coming up on 6 years.
we would have quit years ago if nobody actually listened to us.
Yeah, no, if we still had the same listens that we started with, we would not be here still.
I wouldn't have even
we
had a
probably would have
chance.
converted. We would have been to a different podcast or something. But no, thank you all so much. What I'm holding in my hands is simply a piece of paper, cardboard. But for us, it means so
Some
much more than
recognition,
just that.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It reaches far beyond what it physically is, because it means something very special to all 3 of us here. So thank you so much for all of that. But until next time, this is Nick.
This is Steve Carell.
This is Jamie.
Happy Haunts.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Fear and Beer, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on whatever streaming platform you are listening to us on. You can find us on all of our socials at Fear and Beer Pod.